We'll see how to configure Google Map with Android. Now, before we start up, I'll draw a simple diagram that should tell you what are the things that you require. The first thing you require here is a real Android device, as Google Map version with API 2.2 and above will not work without an Android device. Of course, you can work with emulator, but you have to do a lot of setups. So here it is, we require an Android device. As far as your SDK requirement are concerned, in Android SDK you require Google Play services, and of course you require API version 2.0 and above. This is your API requirement. At the same time, you need to your Google Map API will be presented with a Google server, and you will be communicating through a Google server. So you also require to have a API key. This API key requires few things to be generated. So you need to have your package name as well as your debug key store. For generating the API, this debug key store should be converted into, should be used to generate a SHA password, and that SHA password should be used alongside your package name in order to generate the key. This API key along with Google Play services should call the Google Map that should be displayed in Android device. Okay, so let's get started with the things one after the other. First thing that we'll be trying to do here is to generate the SHA or key. So for that, what you need to do is you need to first go to your Android directory. Generally it will be present, if you are in Windows 7 it will be present in C drive, users, whatever your username /.android. Here you can see a key file by name debug.keystore. For opening your key store, you require to, for generating the command, you require to open command prompt. Open a command prompt and type key tool. So Java home is set. Key tool displays several options. We require this thing. Close it. Now change the directory to your Android directory where debug.keystore is saved. CD. I'll paste it. Now I'm inside this directory. Okay, for generating the key tool, here is my command: key tool space -list space -v space -alias space Android debug key. So Android debug key is the name that is being given to this generated key, minus keystore debug.keystore minus store password Android minus key password Android. Now store password, I mean, you always know that digital signatures are generated with respect to a public key and private key. So this stored password is nothing but the key that you are giving. Here I have taken Android as the key, and password also is been taken as Android. You can always change it according to your suitability. We'll use this command, paste it here. So it is key tool space -list space -v space -alias space some name space -key store space debug.keystore space -store pass your password space -key pass your password. Enter. Now, once you enter, you'll see one SH1 key being generated over here. This is the key that you'd require for further work, so you need to save it. Say edit, mark in your command prompt, carefully mark this key. Do remember not to use an extra space or colon anywhere, because this key should be used as it is. Copy the key. Right. All you need to do right now is to open your Google API services, and the Google API services can be used from Google API console, code.google.com.apis. If you type this in browser, you'll be in Google API console, code.google.com/apis, and it will be secured. As you can see, it's with HTTPS. The first thing that you should do is select your services. Click on services. You'll see several services here. Just search for map services. By default, you'll see a view like this: Google Maps Android API v2. Now there are several Maps APIs, but you need to go for Google Maps Android API v2, and you need to click on over here to activate it. Ensure that it is green, right? I'll be then using Google Maps APIs. Now you have to go for API access. It will ask you to create a key. Just say edit allowed Android apps. Here I need to paste my password, and I need to put the package information which I'll be using in my project. Say for example, the package that I'll be using is now remember this thing, you should mention the package name along, as such that it should include your package. At the same time, it should include the project name. So if you are to use the API key generated by this tool, your project name should be my app, and the default package that you should enter is com.integratedideas. I shall update it. Once you have updated, you would be able to generate a new key. So this is what your API key is. Now this is the key that you would be requiring for your project. Fine, then I have one issue done. I had generated SHA, and I had also generated API key. The next thing that I require is to use Google Play services. All these things has to be done in Android platform. So let me get started with my Eclipse development. The first thing that you should ensure here is click on Window, Android SDK Manager, and go for extra section. In the extras, you'd be able to see Google Play services. It should always be installed. I repeat once, you should have Google Play services. It should be installed once. Now, do note over here that one of the important thing is not only you should have Google Play services installed, but at the same time it should also be present in your workspace. So how am I going to do that? Click on File, Import existing Android code into workspace. Now this was your Android directory. It should be present in C drive /user/ whatever your username and Android SDK. In Android SDK you have extras section. Over there you have Google and then Google Play services. So from import project, browse. In the user you'll see Android SDKs, there extras, there Google, and there you'll see Google Play services. Select it. You'll see several Play services being put over here. Important thing is click on this, copy projects into workspace, otherwise they'll not be copied into your physical directories. You do need to copy the copy the project into workspace. Say finish. You can see Google Play services got installed here. Now I do need to start up with the project, and as we had seen during the generation of API key, my project should be with the name com.integratedideas.mymap. Now how am I going to do it? File, new, Android application project, application name mymap, and just going to change it to integrated ideas. Minimum API requirement, it should be Android 2.2. however, because I want to use fragment and other advanced API keys, I'll use ice cream sandwich as my minimum API requirement. Target platform, I'm going to use Jelly Bean, and compile with Google API version 17. I can select some options to just select my icon, and I'll say next. I'll use a blank activity, let the activity name and everything be there, and say finish. Fine then. So you have your default layout. I do not want this default layout. I need to change it with the layout specific to Google Maps. So how am I going to do that? I already have it. I'll just use it. Now for your convenience, I'll just paste it in Notepad with better font, so you can have a look around. This is the important code. I'll be using a fragment. I'll give it an ID, say map. I'll give it a width and height which should match the parent. The class com.google.android.gms maps map fragment. And once you have made these changes, if you look at your graphical user interface, it will be having a fragment that would be displaying map overlay. Okay, but for working with maps, just go back here and I'll mark this one. I do have this thing ready also. Now before you compile your Android code, you should have one more thing. You should have to remember one more thing, that accessing the map requires several extra permissions, like permission to access internet connection, permission to access network connections, permissions to contact Google Map, and so on. Therefore, you have to definitely change your Android mainface.xml. So I'm going to open Android mainface.xml. I do need to make some changes here. The first thing that you should tell is you will be using Google Map version 2.0 and above. So this is what needs to be included after user SDK section. So Android :GLES version 0x0002 4 zeros and Android required 2. Now we come to user permission section. This is interesting here. First, this is most basic. You should give permission as internet, then access network state, then write external storage, and then com.google.android.providers.gsf.permission.read GSE services. Then user permission. Android permission, extract course location, find location, and user permission name. Interesting thing is you are specifying a permission level through which you will be contacting the map, and if you remember I had given it com.integratedideas.mymap. So I am defining the Android name com.integratedideas.mymap.permission.map_receive. I'm going to put it in here. Okay. Now once you have specified the permission, give the detailed permission before application. So you can remember that we had given the application name as com dot integrated ideas dot mymap dot permission, and use Android protection label as signature so that it calls your map to the digital signature you had just generated. Put it here. Fine, so the permission is set up. The last thing that you have to do is, at the end of activity, after the activity ends and before application segment is closed, you need to put your API key here. And how you are going to put the API key? It's a simple tag. You have to use metadata. So metadata Android name com.google.android maps v2 API key, and here you need to paste the API key generated from Google key, that is, this is your API key here. So copy this key and paste it here, right then. Copy this thing and paste it. This is all you require to set up your map. The only thing right now that you should do is update your source code, that is the code, Java code for your activity class. Now I do have written the Java code. I just would give you an overview of what it should do. The Java code should import play service utility, Google Map, map fragment, bitmap descriptor factory, latitude, longitude, marker option. You can have a good look at it. Google Play services, Google Map, map fragment. I don't require this duplicate one. So these are the services that are required. I'll just copy it and we shall use it in our main activity. That's right. Now, once you have copied this, you can see there is a typical error that com.google.android GMS common services cannot be loaded. That is because whenever you are working with Google Map, you have to set up your project properties. For setting up project properties, click on My Map, say Properties, click on Android. The first thing you should do is Add. In Add, you can see Google Play Service Library. Select this one, apply, say OK. Once you do that, you'll see several errors have been changed. So basic bottom line is you need to have the library, play service library, compiled with your application in order to do so. Fine then. I'll be using some latitude and longitude. This I have simply taken away from Mr. Boyla's tutorial, so I'll be using it as it is here. In the code front, I require a latitude longitude object, and one object would have been sufficient, just in order to check how the marker works. And I didn't require alert dialog. I had used it for my debug purpose. And I require an object for Google Map. Take it and paste it in your class. Fine. As far as the remaining code is concerned, first you need to get an object of map using map fragment. If you remember properly, we had used a fragment instead of Google Map in our main GUI. So I'll be using a map fragment to get the map. If it is not null, I'll declare a marker to mark the areas which I have declared. Instead of this, you can take current GPS location and you can mark it on the map. Copy this code and in your on create, once contained view is over, just paste it. This is all you require over here and it should get compiled. Now, very interesting thing is that you cannot really compile it with any emulator. If you do try to do that, it's going to show in the emulator that you require to update the play services, and once you click that, it's never going to update that. So you need to actually connect a physical Android device for testing. Now I'm using a Google Nexus device here for testing. Once you are done with everything, run configuration. In the target, specify active devices and say run. It's going to launch it. Shall using run Android application. It should show launching my map, and it should display you the device that you are physically connected. Select this device and it should try to install the APK mymap.apk into your device. You can have a view at logcat here. I do also want to show you the successful running of the application. So you want to see the screenshot of how it goes. You have to go with DDMS. There is a tab here. Click on DDMS. You'll have the device perspective. In the device perspective, you have a screen capture option. click on the screen capture option. You can see